Hey y'all, my name is Tamara Andress. I am your Fit and Faith podcast host, and I am pumped to be here. Just me, no words, no scripts, no intros, no outros. I love authenticity. I hope to breed vulnerability, and I usually do this alongside another dreamer, mover, shaker, entrepreneur, passionista is what I love to call them. If you're a dude, then a dude. But I am loving just coming together in community with other people to share their high and low stories, to share their journeys to comeback, because I believe ultimately that's where God would have us. He would have us on the mountaintop. And even though we learn a ton in the pit and in the valley, God would want us right now, especially in this season of life, in this time of our culture, to shine. And so here I am. I want to teach you how to shine. I want to be alongside you when you get your glow. I want to catapult you into your calling, whatever that is. So this isn't a fitness podcast. This is not a religious banter, though we preach Jesus all day long. And this is not just about nutrition or health or wealth, though I like some green, and I know you do too. It's not okay for us to not be okay with talking about all of these things in unison. You guys, we don't just need a mental health podcast. We don't just need a fitness podcast. We don't just need a religious, spiritual podcast. It needs to blend. This is what Fit and Faith is all about. It's all about creating alignment, connectivity. It's about pursuing your wholeness and claiming it over your life and over the lives of the loved ones that you have around you in your community. So thank you for tuning in. I would love to get to know you more. You can like, review, subscribe, whatever it is. Send me an email, DM me. It's me. I have an amazing team alongside me, but you guys are getting me for now. So enjoy. I'm so pumped to have a coffee conversation with you, is what I love to call them. Don't have my coffee right now, but I have it in my system, as you can see. All the love. Let's do this together and keep going for your dreams, y'all. Welcome. I'm so excited to introduce you.
Hey.
I feel like I just did this on the radio the other day.
Just
but
do
this is such a different audience, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't even listen to Current FM much before understanding what genre of music.
Yeah.
It's really awesome in the sense that 90.7 she shared with me, which is what K-Love, everybody generally listens to. It's on top 40 repeat over and over. And Current FM pulls from even different decades into like brand new releases, and she does the shuffling, which is really cool.
That is real. Well, that's why you hear the same music all the time on K-Love. Nothing against K-Love.
I know.
I happen to have it on my radio.
Exactly.
As well.
Your preset.
It is. So I have like maybe three that I switch between.
Yeah.
One of them's a gospel station. I don't even know what it is. I switch it and I listen to it much of the time.
Yeah, awesome.
Until I just
love
change the channel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, next one.
Right.
But yeah, so we're on Current FM, kind of sharing about what you do, what we're doing together later this fall. But the point of the podcast wasn't really about any of that. It's for you to come on and share your heart and share the knowledge and the wealth of knowledge that you've brought into my own life and to many people that I know. And you've just been such a light to me, such a guidance point. And anytime, by the way, she's my therapist, in case I need to like tell you that. You'll figure it out, obviously. But anytime I come to sit on your couch, like at first I remember being like so guarded and so unsure. And it was really just my own lack of self-awareness at the time. But now it's a place that me and Gary both just sit and like, and we're just so thankful to be there. Half the time, we're just conversating out of friendship, but even still, you teach so well, and you teach with such a heart of gold that comes from knowledge of your own, experiences, and it's so evident. So I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try to create a warm environment.
You do.
In general, actually, just in my life, that's who I try to be.
Yeah.
maybe to my own fault sometimes, but,
So
I
true.
try to have a nice, warm, welcoming environment for everybody really that I'm around.
Yeah, you really do. It's interesting. I know we've talked a lot about Enneagram.
Yes.
I was talking today at work about Myers-Briggs, but I took a colors test.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done that one? That one was really interesting and really great for like people that you work alongside.
Yeah.
And so I'm blue, and I don't even remember all the things of what that encompasses, but we got to guess, which I know you say like you shouldn't probably do that. And you could tell some people took offense to some of the guesses.
See, that's why you don't guess.
Even in the color. So it was fun, but everyone was like blue when it was my turn. They knew like spot on.
Well, I don't know the color test enough. I've taken it. I don't even remember when that was. It's probably been a year or longer, maybe more than that. But I took it, and I don't even remember what colors are actually available to be chosen from. Don't remember what color I was.
Yeah.
But I also can never remember my Myers-Briggs type, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Enneagram I got down. It's only one number. It's so much easier to remember.
That's true.
I don't remember all the other stuff, and people will tell me, well, you can probably figure it out, right? And you can guess. What I know is anytime I take a test with extrovert, introvert, I'm straight right in the middle every time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to be more on the introvert side.
Yeah.
And then I think just with owning a business, you have to be more extroverted.
Yeah.
So I've learned that side, but on test, I'm always like smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, that's probably interesting to be. I mean, I can see the qualities of an introvert for like studying psychology and why that would be the case. But then being in front of people, and though it's really their space to be vulnerable, you're also super vulnerable and like receiving and then giving insight to that. And was introvert like something you claimed yourself as young?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, I say that because I was called shy all the time as a child, and I think it's pretty hard to see what someone's actual personality is when there's that shyness.
Yeah.
So I was very, very shy as a child. I have this memory. So my dad was a pastor, is a pastor still, and we would do these contests, or contest probably isn't the right word. We were given motivation to read the Bible all the way through, and if you did so at the end, you like stood in front of the church and you received this little plaque.
Nice.
So I did it. I read my Bible through as a child. I'm sure I didn't lie about it, so I'm going to say I probably did read it through as a child. But then when I was called to the front, I wouldn't go. I was in tears begging my mom not to have to go because I never wanted everybody to see me, but I wanted to complete the task, which is kind of funny. So I had a lot of shyness as a kid. And my parents actually say it was when I got the Holy Spirit that I wasn't shy anymore. My parents knew me all that time, so I guess they know.
Wow, it's just like a flip of the switch is what they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
They said I became like a little evangelist and was riding my bike up and down the street.
How old was that?
I was very small. I don't know. I say got the Holy Ghost. What I mean is got saved, became a Christian.
Sure.
Because I know there's theological differences in how people say that. So I mean, I became a Christian. I got saved, and my mom says I rode my bike up and down the street yelling, "I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian." So I was very excited as a child.
Naturally evangelical. That's hilarious.
And I guess that's when I became an extrovert.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but I do kind of go back and forth. I think probably depending on how tired I am, stress, busy work
people,
week.
comfortable people.
Oh yeah, new people for sure.
Yeah, that's something I'm really like weary about as a mom to like label my children, because Waverly is absolutely on a scale of introvert and extrovert in comparison to her older brother, an introvert. And Cooper is absolutely an extrovert. Yeah. But if you get Waverly by herself, she is just a ball of energy. She doesn't stop talking. I don't know where she gets it from. And she's not shy at all. But when she was really little, especially introducing her to somebody new, we would easily just say like, oh, she's just a little shy. She'll take a couple minutes to warm up, like saying those things. And I don't even remember who specifically said something to me at some point. It might even have been you, because we've known each other for so long at this point, and she was a baby at that time, saying like, be weary of how you label your children, because they'll take ownership in that label and then they'll claim it as who they are, because they don't know any different. They haven't done this soul self-exploration journey that we've done as we've gotten older. And so I've been really cognizant of being like,
nope, she's actually not shy. Like, because people say, oh, she's just shy. I'm like, nope, she's not shy, Coop. Like, she's just taking a minute to to take it all in and see what's going on. She'll come out. She'll say
cautious,
hi.
maybe.
Yeah,
cautious is a better word than shy. I think shy
Totally.
has like the fear and the anxiety wrapped up into it, where something like cautious is more of an awareness of your own environment.
Absolutely.
And just making sure you're not doing something haphazard. So then she's really smart, because
right?
she's cautious.
Right? And then it changes the whole perspective in
Right.
one word. We were just at a family reunion this past weekend for my grandpa's 90th birthday, which is amazing. And he, at the end, we have so many family members. And so she came across one of my cousins who's older than us. And he's got a nose ring and tattoos. And like from the outside looking in, you could be like, oh, he's a little bit intimidating, a little bit scary. Not. He's such a sweetheart. But he's like, hey, and immediately, as a family member, we're like, oh, give Uncle Donnie a hug. And she just planted her feet like, nope. And so Gary, I like saw him sort of like nudge her forward. And I was like, it's okay. It's your cousin. Like, you guys are family. And she just kind of looked at me like, no. And I was like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm like, how about like a high five or something?
She's like, I'm not having
this.
not
having it. So we get in the car, and as we're driving down the road, I tell Gary, I'm like, babe, just to be aware, and it's something that I obviously did in the exact same moment, but in reflection, like, we need to be cognizant of her personal space.
Yeah.
And the fact that because of her cautiousness, that's a good sign that she's taking that in and she's saying, I don't feel comfortable, and like not forcing a hug and not doing that. And I know you've suggested a couple books even for me and Cooper and Waverly to read about, being able to say no and being conscious of your body. So something I learned from that book.
I'm a big fan of not pushing kids into like hugging when they don't want to, or I don't like it because I think it teaches people at a young age that you don't get to say yes or no. And so I don't like that idea. I think it's dangerous. But I have found I can do the same thing too. With my nieces or my nephews. And it's easy to get into that mindset where you're like, no, it's family. Go ahead, go give a hug.
Right.
And then later think about, oh yeah, that's actually a message I don't want to give kids.
Totally.
Day by day, right? We're all growing and learning. But I do think it's very good to help kids know that they don't have to have touch if they don't want it.
Yeah, absolutely. And same as adults. I mean, some people really don't I don't want to be hugged. Like, some people aren't like that. And I love hugs. I'll take an embrace at any point. But even there are the times where you're like, oh, that was a little awkward. That probably shouldn't have happened right then that way. Sure. So just being aware of that.
That's a church thing, right? Where everybody hugs even if you don't want to.
It's so true.
I know, it's so awkward.
It is so true. Though I will say, when I went to Parkway and people did that, like the welcoming committee at every single church. Well, these mamas were just like, you felt like you were in your grandma's arms. And I was a mess when I first went to church. Like, we went to church in a saved space. Talk about like the Holy Spirit transformation. I just feel like I completely opened myself to women being one of those things. And I'd love to talk further about like that connection and that femininity component that altered within me. But when they embraced me, I was just like, oh, and I just felt melted in their arms. But in other church environments, I've been very I don't know the authenticity behind it, which makes it harder, where I felt like they were just like, come here, baby, I'll hold you,
And authenticity is so important. Yeah. Because it feels gross otherwise.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I'm taking notes because I always like to reflect later, and we were talking about so many things. So tell me about that kind of like flip for myself and help others understand, because I feel like so often as girls, especially, that middle school, high school, even college for me, claiming myself as like a guy's girl. And like, what does that mean? And it could mean a multitude of things, especially from history or trauma or anything of how they were raised. But recognizing the importance of like owning and coming into relation with your sisters.
Yeah, that's funny because I didn't get a lot of practice as a child with that. I had all brothers. So mom and dad, all brothers. Mom and dad both worked a lot, so they weren't home as much. I remember some mother-daughter times with my mom, but for the most part, it was me and my brothers. And they often would make sure I knew that I wasn't part of their boys' club. So as kids will be kids.
Sure.
But I really longed for that relationship with my brothers, and I think I longed for it with guys just in general.
Yeah.
And so it has taken really, I would say, a lifetime to like I'm 80 or something. It's taken so far my lifetime.
Just dentures in, you can't see them, but
I've aged gracefully. So it takes some time to facilitate those female relationships, and I think there's a number of reasons for that, or for that happening, because a lot of times girls can be a little catty, and it's sad. I wish that weren't the case, but I find that we can be that way. I would expect, because we're just so highly emotional, and so everything is emotionally charged and everything is relationally charged. So it takes very little to feel like somebody is anti-me right now, or somebody's ugly toward me right now. I don't think we mean to do that to each other. It's just communication mishaps, misunderstandings. Sometimes on the other side, jealousy and things like that. But it's really hard to form those female relationships, I believe, which to me is a tragedy, because I actually believe scripturally we should really be devoting ourselves to those relationships. We don't see women having lots of relationships with men. We see the woman with her husband, and then we see the woman with girlfriends, and with the older women that they're learning from, and the younger women that they're teaching. So we're definitely supposed to have this community among women. I wish I had the answer of how to make that easier. I don't have that.
Come on.
Sorry. Can't help there. I don't know that I'll help there at the conference either. But I think it's really the time that we spend together, and the constantly trying to hear one another out and listen for that heart that's speaking, not just the words that are coming out, and ask the clarifying questions. All the things I would teach people in counseling anyways. We learn how do we ask those questions of one another, and kind of let the guards down. I would say that's probably the harder part, is that vulnerability.
I think that's a huge portion of it. And like I had mentioned a bit of like the self-awareness, self-identity piece, and like being able to be comfortable enough in who I am. And I'm still growing in that, but I remember feeling like, okay, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. And having that switch of being like, okay, they're either going to accept me or they're not. But it's so exhausting to try and be accepted in the person that I was not.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like trying to put on a front to be liked, or to fit into a certain social section. And so this is me. And then when you are able to say this is me, you kind of gravitate towards people, and they gravitate towards you, because they see that there's nothing hidden here. And I think that's where the catty, that's where the jealousy, that's where, oh, she's perfect was something I was claimed over so much when I was growing up. And whether I think eventually it became something that I titled over myself, not because I didn't think I was perfect, but because I had heard it so much that I then put my own self, like I'm on this pedestal for everyone else, I have to stay there, and putting that pressure on myself. And so just finally like being like, nope, I can't stay there. I don't have the expectation for myself to be there anymore. I don't want to be there. It's exhausting. And how can I be on the same level playing field with all of my friends and sisters? And that was like the time where my hands were open, just like in a relationship with the Lord. Right? We try and clinch onto things.
Right. And that's so good, because, we wear those masks. I think society teaches us to do that, presenting a certain face to others, or presenting a certain appearance to others. But taking off that mask, people want that so desperately. I called it vulnerability. You're calling it taking the mask off. I think it's kind of the same thing, though, that just being real with people. People are hungry for that, especially in today's world, because actually, it's funny, 'cause we're on social media, but so many people are using social media now actually in lieu of relationship. And so instead of facilitating relationship, they're doing social media. I'm going to listen to this podcast later. I listen to podcasts all the time. I do social media as well. So I don't think that it's something that, we need to shy away from. But we still need to somehow find a way for actual, real face-to-face relationship, to going out to lunch with your girlfriends, having coffee dates, like actually spending time together, not just via text or social media. Because we lose quite a bit with that kind of a screen connection. It's just not the same. Like, so we release chemicals even just being in close relationship with one another, and that's part of what creates that bonding. But you can't do that over a screen.
Right.
So you really just lose a part of the relationship.
It's so true. And then you think about like bringing that into the sector of relationships with the opposite sex, and eventually hopefully leading to marriage, is online dating and app dating, and like it really, people can have full on relationships. And what's the show where like they're fake? It's like Catfish or something. Like
that would probably be the
right.
name, yeah.
It's like caught you, and like they're not even real. Like you see them and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm a 13-year-old male and I was disguising myself as a 27-year-old female, and it's horrible. But to think like the importance of coming to face with people is in so many realms. It's like definitely become my love language. Like I want quality time. I want eye contact.
Yeah.
It's so important for me.
Yeah. It's actually even more important for women to have that eye contact. So as girlfriends, like girls really need to do this with one another, because it's actually, that's how we bond. So man to woman, men and men are side-to-side communicators. Women are eye-to-eye, so it gets a little bit more difficult with man and wife, because that's, their strengths have to change a little, and they have to compromise and fit into that that new norm for a male-female or male-female relationship. But girlfriends really do well to have that eye-to-eye contact.
It's interesting, because I know you're probably analyzing, because Gary always talks about how he just wants my eyes. And it's so much harder for me when it comes to my spouse to give him that time, because I feel like in my home, I'm thinking of 1,000 other things. The kids are there, and he literally will like a puppy dog in the sweetest sense, not in a bad way at all. I love him dearly. He will like follow me around the house, like eager for me. I'm picking up clothes, I'm doing laundry, I'm like cleaning the dishes, and he's just asking me questions and answering questions. And then finally he'll be like, I'll catch eyes with him, and he's like, hey. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. How long have you been following me, waiting for my eye contact? And so I am really good at it with women, because I'm intentional with the bubble of time that I put around it.
See, there you go. So you have a cutoff.
I do.
It makes it a little easier.
I totally know. And so that is like such a value point. And when we don't get like our date nights or our time that's like no babies and likely out of the home. Because for me at the house, I just feel like a need to be, I don't know, busy. I don't know why that is. Other than when we're in bed, but that's a whole nother, space that you're supposed to keep sacred. So I need to be better with my spouse in that.
Yeah, it's hard. Very task oriented. Yeah. So it makes it difficult. And anytime we talk gender differences, those are in generalities. So it's not always 100% across the board. These are most men are this way and most women are this way. So that's something to remember too. So I'm not analyzing.
It's okay. I know. I always say that. My other girlfriend who's a therapist, she's like, I'm not analyzing you. Like, I swear, I'm just being your friend right now.
Just having conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I leave that to your work couch, right? I didn't let you get too cozy for a reason. So I want to know, I know we kind of started in the backwards spin of like what you do now, and I'd love to hear more about like how that started and what like led you to the pursuit of helping people. You help a lot of different types of people, but I know marriage is one of the things that you...
Yeah, I definitely do more of marriage than anything. I don't know if that was accidental or if God led me that direction. I'm not sure. What I know is I started grad school, and I know that was a God thing.
Yeah.
So way back when did I graduate? I graduated in 2012. 6 years before that is when I had run into an old professor who asked me what I was doing. I'm like, what? I'm a payroll person. That's what I do. And, and he was like, no, you shouldn't be. You should be going on to grad school, and you have what it takes. And so I basically just listened to him. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'll do it then. And I didn't put a lot of thought into it. I didn't realize how difficult it would be. Probably good I didn't know, because I might not have done it. But it happened just at an ideal time in my life where I knew that changes needed to happen, and I knew that I couldn't kind of stay in the routine and in the place that I was in. So I knew it was good to change. So I started going to Regent. That's where I got my doctorate of clinical psychology. And while I was there, they kind of consider it vita building.
Okay.
And so it's a good idea to build your vita, build your resume, get lots of experience in different areas. And so there are tons of research groups. And if you saw my vita, it's kind of funny because I have, 20 different research groups that I was a part of.
Cool.
in very small capacity. But the one that I did most of was a research group specifically working with couples. And it was looking at, does Christian counseling benefit people more than traditional counseling without the Christian aspects? Yeah. The actual research shows that it's not really a difference. If the people are Christians, then they seem to do better with that Christian integrative approach.
Right.
If they're not, they do fine with the other approach.
Cool.
So it's kind of interesting. Now those aren't long-term studies, so that's short-term, 10 weeks. What do we find out?
Sure.
So
sure.
Whole lot that could be said about that.
But of course, I'm following you.
Right. But I did that for 4 years, I guess. I was involved in doing more of the marriage, more of the couples therapy type stuff. At the same time, I was seeing clients early on in my second year who were having sexual related intimacy concerns. And so that led to the sex therapy piece as well. Right. So I did those in conjunction with one another, but the sex therapy piece I did in Atlanta. That was not at Regent.
Okay.
They don't do that at Regent, so it's a separate certification.
Cool.
But all of that came to pass, I think, because of the research area I got interested in.
Yeah.
Now, there's background stuff in my own life and
Sure.
in marriages in my family that led me down that track too.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it's just Regent and I got interested in a research group.
Sure.
But that's the one I really kind of dove into
Cool.
face first, I guess.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
That's really great.
Yeah.
And so you've been practicing for how many years now?
Let's see. If you count under supervision, that would have been since 2009, so about a decade.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Time
you still don't look old
flies.
enough for all
I
of
know.
that.
Thank
It's
you.
so lovely.
I just turned 40.
Woo woo! Happy birthday.
Thank you. That was good. Well, that was a couple of months. Oh gosh, that was March. That was
that's bad. I'm sure I wish you happy birthday then.
Time really flies. So a few months ago.
That's awesome. I'll still say happy birth year.
Thank you again.
Big 4-0. So when did you meet your husband? Were you married while pursuing, learning about?
Yes.
Okay.
We met in, this is funny, we always have a hard time remembering exactly when we met. When we started dating, we disagree a little bit on that, but
yeah.
But we know it was sometime before my birthday, before I turned 30. So we started dating, I want to say, during the first year that I was at Regent.
Okay.
So we met pretty quickly while I was there, started dating, and then got married at the end of my second year. But I know we were only dating for a year and some odd months.
Wow, yeah. That's
so
you knew.
So we got married quickly. Well, everybody said it was quickly. To us, it didn't feel all that quick, but we spent a lot of time together.
Sure.
Our first date was the hardest interview you'd ever been to. I'm serious.
From you or from him?
No, from him. He asked a lot of questions. So for you guys that are watching, my husband and I are in a biracial marriage. And so there were a lot of questions about that, what that would mean for my family, and if this was going to be acceptable. So
wow, on a first date.
Yeah, our first date was
that.
pretty amazing, actually.
Cool.
And I mean, we spent a ton of time together the first date, but it went really well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that weird butterflies in the stomach. Oh, we're so attracted to one another really well. It was this actual emotional and intellectual connection.
Yeah, I was going to say that's so deep.
Yeah, I think we both kind of came to the table of, look, we're not going to play games. Wow. We're not going to mess around here. So I need to know, are you worth my time?
Yeah, totally.
And that worked well.
It's interesting, and I feel like more people, especially as I've gotten older and my friends have obviously aged alongside me, some who are single, seeing the way that they date is so much different than how we dated when we were in college and high school, and that is something that I've had friends do. They're like, I am not in this for just hanging out. I really want to know, and I want to pursue this person in such a different way. And I feel like I didn't have the opportunity to do that until I was already married, which I then got the opportunity to do because I feel like I'm in a constant pursuit of Gary now. But I wasn't when we were first got together. It was just that it was all about the butterflies. It was all about the feelings and the emotions, and he's hot and we look good together and we have a lot of fun and similar interests. And there was obviously depth to it. We were together for 4 years. So before we got married. So that was a very different duration of time. Yeah. But I really feel like the flip of the script for us was when we realized this might not last. For me specifically. And how are we going to make it work for the longevity of our lives? Because eventually feelings run out.
Right.
Eventually emotions change and that dwindles. And so how do you reignite that ember when you feel like you already know everything there is to know?
Yeah.
Yet I learned something new about him every single day now because my mind and my heart are opened to what's there.
Right.
Right.
Well, and the more you know yourself, the more you have to share with your spouse as well. So if you're gaining awareness, which I think all of us should do, constantly gaining that awareness, or even becoming more like Christ and learning from the Lord, all of those things create these new dynamics that you can then share with one another. So you will spend the rest of your life getting to know one another, and that's not because you're married, so you spend the rest of your life getting to know each other.
Yeah.
That's legit true. You will spend the rest of your life growing together, and learning more about yourself, hopefully, and then learning more about one another. It's a journey we're on together, which is really fun. It's a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's not a one-stop shop, right?
Yeah.
When you start dating and decide to get married, like you don't know what you're getting into, really.
No,
which is probably
you
good.
don't.
I don't think we're supposed to know.
Yeah, true. Again, just like your grad school experience, if you know, then are you going to do it? Are you going to pursue it in the same way, with the same, hey, this is what we do. This is the next step.
Exactly.
And nobody can even really speak into that. So I had the opportunity to, what is it called? With my first wedding, I was going to say ordained.
Oh, yeah,
that's not it.
Facilitate. Not facilitate.
Officiate. I couldn't even think of the word. I'm like, ordained, that's not it. Officiate my cousin's wedding a couple weeks ago. And
congrats on that. That's awesome.
Such a special thing. I'm so honored to have done it and hope to do it again, because it was just to be on that side of this ceremony versus in the pew or even the bride. Felt really just so different. It was definitely a existential experience, but to be able to share with them, only having been married at that point for 7 years, 11 together, how can I speak into this? And it was really just a God ordained time for him to be able to share what he's done through my own marriage versus my giving any insight, because just like we could read 1,000 marital books, it's not going to be the same for you and your spouse.
Right.
They're just all different. Every storyline's different. Yeah. And I think you've said it before, and you'll say it best even here, but you talk about how our relation or our upbringings are then brought together. Explain that again.
Yeah. So you have your story that you've already been creating from childhood.
Yeah.
And people speak into your life and they help you create that story, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad.
Yeah.
And each of you are doing that. So you and Gary both did that as you were growing up. And then you meet one another and you start rewriting a brand new story together. Each of you with your background. So there's these pieces. It's almost like if you were reading a book that was maybe a trilogy, and so you're reading one story, and then as you learn each other more, you're finding the background of each of the characters in this main story, and you just continue to grow. And so as we learn more about each other's past, and it's interesting because when you're married for long enough, you kind of think, well, yeah, I've shared my past with my spouse. I mean, they know everything there is to know.
Totally.
But the more you get to know yourself, you can have aha moments where you're like, wow, gosh, that actually reminds me of a situation with my dad. That reminds me of a situation with my brother, or whatever it may be. And so you can sit in that place and then bring new awareness to your spouse, saying, oh, I get why we had that argument the other day. Yeah. You're right. You said nothing wrong, but this is why I got hurt. And it reminded me of this instance. And you have this new chance to kind of grow. But through all of that, you're building your own story. We don't know how it's going to end. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the next week, month, year, decade of your life. And so there'll be a continuing building of your story. I always think it's really beautiful to watch couples that have been married, 50 or 60 years, and maybe they're in their 70s or 80s, and they're talking about life together and how to maintain that loving bond. And sometimes their advice is silly and cute, and sometimes it's just this really simple message of just make sure you love each other. And that's really what it's all about, writing that story.
Totally.
It's about loving each other really well over and over again.
Well, I know that you have helped us learn to love each other more, and I feel like that's a weird thing to it's like there's a triangle, but really the triangle's with the Lord, because you help steward that relationship even as a married couple, even though we were in the church as well. But you have your Better Than the Honeymoon
Yeah.
Facebook group. That is so awesome. There's like 200 people in there. Isn't there a lot of people in there?
Yeah, I don't know how many.
Yeah, there's a lot of people
more than
in there.
that. Yeah, there's
maybe more than that. Yeah.
Who knows?
Regardless, every time that I get to chime into there, because of course there's 1,000 Facebook groups, just like there are 1,000 research groups.
Yes.
Whenever I chime in there, I'm always so grateful. I've pointed so many people to that resource because it's a free opportunity for people to really learn more about you, but then learn more about their spouse.
Yeah.
And when you ask very deep questions to a group of a lot, you see people be truly vulnerable. And it's a beautiful thing to watch strangers. Sometimes you know the person because I've put friends into that group that I know could use it. And it's been really helpful. So I definitely want to point people to that. What is your heart behind like that specific experience? Because I know you're doing kind of a bunch of different fun things right now.
I'm doing several things.
Yes,
That's true.
yes.
Trying to put focus where it needs to be, which is really hard for me.
Yeah.
But I'm trying. So the Better Than the Honeymoon group, what's funny is people a lot of times think that has to do with sex, and that's what they're expecting it to be. That wasn't really what I was going for.
Yeah,
when I said that.
haven't thought of that.
But I can see where people would come up with that, and that would be kind of the idea.
Sure.
But it's much more holistic than that.
Right.
So Better Than the Honeymoon. When we get married, it's kind of funny. Actually, I just talked to some friends of mine. They've been married 30 years. They just celebrated their 30th.
Yeah.
And they were renewing their wedding vows. And so they were saying it was just this beautiful experience because they were able to renew those vows, and now they know what they mean.
Yeah.
So like before, when you're standing up there, and we talked about it together, how funny it is because when you get married, like you hear all these people's advice and the things they say, and some of it's really negative, and you're looking at your person then saying, not us though, because we're in love. Like this won't be our lives. We're gonna be good. We don't fight. We get along. And it's true, and it should be true.
Yeah.
When you're
That's
getting
the hope,
married,
right?
right? But then something happens over the years, and we can have a tendency to grow apart. We frustrate one another. Iron sharpens iron, so there's a refining process that's going on. That's from the Lord. And we have a hard time sometimes in relationship with others. You're not really doing a relationship actually if there's not some friction there every once in a while.
That's good.
So we have to learn how to get through that. So that Better Than the Honeymoon is learning that moment, that first week of bliss that comes where you're like the 10 of your 1 to 10 scale. That first week is good, but it's not at all what the standard should be for your marriage. It's just a picture. It's a snapshot of the many years that you'll have together. So the Better Than the Honeymoon speaks to that. If this is, the continuing to grow, the continuing to build a life together that you really love, and continuing to build on your relationship that far extends that honeymoon period. Even as therapists, we call it that. We call it the honeymoon period. It lasts about 18 months, typically anywhere from 6 to 18 months, where people, all of your hormones are kind of going nuts, and you're releasing all these endorphins, and so you feel really connected and close, and eventually those die down. And they have to. I always joke with people, they have to die down, or neither one of you are ever working again, and you don't have a life. You can't pay your bills. So they need to die, and you need to go on living a regular life, but still being a part of one another. And so after those hormones die down, we have to learn a lot more about commitment and making it about more of the connection, because we know we need it, not necessarily because we're feeling it in the moment, but always facilitating that closeness. So you may not have the butterflies anymore, but you have something so much greater because what you have is real, and it stands the test of time, and it's a much deeper commitment.
Yeah, that's really good. And then there is the piece that everybody's wondering about, because you did mention sex and your sex therapy.
I am.
So that I do want to get into the nitty gritty of that too. And honestly, Gary and I haven't had the opportunity to like fully just dive just into that, because wow, has our life been something in the last 3 years. But I was actually thinking about, this is really weird, in the shower the other day when I was thinking about our time together for the podcast, and I was like, man, next time, and I want you to hold this as a social contract right here. Next time we sit across from you, I really want to just shut out all of the other things, because all the other things will still exist. But it is, at the end of the day, just Gary and I. When we turn off the lights, when the sound machine comes on, and the kids are asleep. And so if we need to focus in on that more, and I know that it's a fault of my own, and I'll carry that myself, and Gary can carry it however he does. But I know that I allow life to affect that part of our relationship.
Yeah.
And yet it's so important. And, you talk about the differences between man and women and what they need versus what we need and how we give. And you told me a visual example once that I'll never forget. You said, like, when it comes to sex, guys have a big red button. And when it's time for sex, it's just like, boing, here's the red button.
Yeah.
But for women, there's a teeny tiny red button, and there's all of these different wires leading to that button, and you have to figure out which one to get to in order to, like, for the guy to say, is this the way today? No, don't touch me. Okay, should I be silly and joke around and be playful?
Right.
No, stop. Okay, am I supposed to give her a lot of foreplay? Like, what is it? And the poor guys, they have all this, they have all this reading to do because of our emotions. But tell us about, like, and I don't even know where you start in that, but
that's a lot. That's true.
It is.
So I'll give kind of a general overview of what sex therapy even is, because I know people wonder about that sometimes. I actually have an article on my blog. Am I able to advertise that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so befullywell.com. And you can actually look for a blog there called What Really Happens in a Sex Therapist Office.
Cool.
And that's really helpful. There's also actually an entire tab just for sex therapy that you can go to and see really what it is, what it's all about.
Okay.
So I do want to point out it is talk therapy. Sometimes people don't know. Sometimes people don't know. I have had some extremely odd requests through email. When I get those, I'm like, hey, check out this article. Tell me if you have any questions.
Oh God, I can only imagine.
Yeah, so it is talk therapy. There's a lot of psychoeducation that goes on in place, and the only reason it's called psychoeducation instead of education is because it embraces the psychological aspects as well. So we talk a lot about human behavior and just how men and women are different. Again, with those ideas that those things are just generalities, and so sometimes we'll find crossover there. So we do a lot of education. Sometimes there's referrals for more serious issues that might need other care. For instance, I've worked with lots of women that have pelvic pain problems, and that requires a referral to someone, typically who I use as a pelvic floor therapist that I love here.
Cool.
And so I use her often, get great reviews from her. And so that requires kind of a team effort. There's numerous other things that may be that way too. Infertility can be one, so they're probably going to be seeing a doctor as well, talking to me more about the emotional connection during those times. So sex therapy is actually this huge broad range. Anything from couples saying we just for some reason can't connect even though we want to. We never make time for sex, but we want to, and it's somehow not happening for us. So it can be something as simple as that, all the way up to things like gender identity, all the way up to things like pornography addiction or affairs. Infertility is definitely one. I think I already mentioned that though. Desire differences between couples can be one, and then I said the pelvic pain. That's one that can be a problem for people too. I've had a few men come in for erectile dysfunction, and if it's medical, that's always you got to take care of the medical piece as well. But some men find that actually it's more emotional based, trauma based.
Interesting.
Trauma would be its separate piece. Also talking sex trauma or sexual trauma. Healing and recovery from that, especially inside of the relationship. So it's a really broad
there's
broad
so much to
topic.
that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so what I do is I do Christian sex therapy,
Right.
Which is different from sex therapy in general because I do use the Word of God as my base and my foundation. So everything's going to be going back to those types of teachings and to using more of a biblical construct. I have had people come see me that want nothing to do with the Bible, and that's fine. I'll still work with them. But I really do, deep down in the core of who I am, believe that we actually have to have that integration with what Christ says is best, because he's the one that created sex. He's the one that created our bodies, and so we really need to heed God's word in that area of our lives, or we're probably not going to enjoy our sex lives the way we're supposed to.
So good. Can you give us like even scriptural, not necessarily reference, because I'm horrible at that, so I would never put you on the spot, but like what does God say about our sex lives?
Yeah, well, first of all, we got to remember that our sex lives are God's. They're not our own. I actually have a colleague that will say to the men, your penis is not your own, it belongs to God. Women, your vagina is not your own, it belongs belongs to God. But the idea behind that is we're always supposed to submit our bodies to Christ.
Yep.
And so that includes the way we pursue one another and the way we talk to one another and the things we ask of one another. So I have kind of an entire theology of sex that I talk about that has to do more with mutually beneficial behaviors. So for if one spouse wants something that the other spouse says, actually that really shames me, that spouse isn't allowed to say, well, it's my marital right. It is not. Actually,
that's good.
Your marital right is to give yourself to your spouse and to love them completely and fully. So that's your marital right.
Yeah, that's good.
So the whole idea behind sex is really learning how to do sex in a way that honors God. So is this something that you could pray about? Is this something that you can go to God and say, hey, I would like to have this in my relationship with my spouse? Because if it's something you would try to hide from God, guess what? These things aren't hidden. He knows what's going on.
Right.
So we just want to do that according to his word and make sure we're loving each other. A lot of times people want a whole list of do's and don'ts, but it's really not as simple as all that because, we've already talked trauma. If you have trauma in your background, there may be things that would be perfectly fine for one couple that aren't for another couple. So it's dependent on the couple, but it's also dependent on the Word of God. And so everything that we think we might want to do, we have to look at, is this something that I would be ashamed to stand before God and say that I've done? If so, that should be a red flag for you. So anything we do should be honoring and loving one another. I mean, that's the whole of Scripture, right? We're constantly supposed to love others. Jesus himself said they're going to know who you are by the way that you love. That's how they're going to know you're different. Jesus was different because of the way he loved. Besides being fully God, fully man. Right. But he showed people he was different by his love, and we've got to do that in the marriage bed as well.
Well, I think, I always talk about like the mind, body, and soul piece, and that's kind of where Fit and Faith was born. Is that the body it's not just like within the bed, it's what are you doing with your body by yourself? And I'm not speaking of masturbation, I'm speaking of like, how do you fuel yourself? And like, how are you, eating? What are you drinking? What are you doing from a consumption standpoint? Are you working out? Are you moving? Are you sitting? I was at the school working today and I had to be in a chair from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. other than for bathroom breaks because we had a sit-in lunch. And at some points, I just stood up. I'm like, I'm just going to stand here. I'm in the room. I'm listening, but I cannot sit here. And afterwards, I told my husband about it, and he's like, babe, that's like 90% of the population. Like, that's what they do. And I'm like, that's horrible. I cannot confine myself to that. I need a standing desk or one of those yoga balls to jump on, right? But it's so important for us to be cognizant, because if you're not treating yourself individually well, your body well, just speaking of the body, how do you think you're going to feel when you come into that sexual intimacy with another person who now sees all of you and you're expecting to like perform or expecting to be loved or expecting to be confident in that when you're not even confident by yourself in the mirror? And that's a hard thing, but it's so important.
It's so huge. That's a part of what we do in sex therapy anyways, is look at some of that. Because if you're not taking care of yourself physically, you're going to have a harder time in the bedroom. It's just true. I know bodybuilders, I guess I can call them that, weight trainers, right? That'll say definitely when they and their spouse are healthy, they're going to have better sex. Well, it's true, because your self-confidence goes up, but even beyond that, just having more energy is important, because all of us are so busy during the day, and if you don't have energy at the end of the night, you're probably not going to want to have sex, or it's going to be very quick and not really all that intimate.
Connected,
and so that is important. How we treat ourselves absolutely has an impact on our sex lives.
And it's interesting because people, even when I was on vacation last week, I entered into a 50 burpees for 30-day challenge.
Yes.
And I haven't done them today. I'm thinking about it as we're saying this. And so I'm on vacation, and some people take vacation to a different extreme, like, oh, I'm on vacation, I'm going to relax this week. Well, I'm on vacation. I have free time to work out whenever I want. Are you kidding me? This is awesome. So we would be walking on the beach and like, let's bust out some burpees. And
fun.
The other people with me probably wouldn't have used that word. They're like, you're crazy. What is wrong with you? And at the end of the trip, one of my girlfriends, who I love dearly, she said, I admire your energy. Like, I wish I was more like that. And I truly believe it's like, as Gary would utilize the reference, like a snowball. Yeah. Like, you start small and you're not expected to do 50 burpees for 30 days in a row. But when you work out to a certain extent and you do build on it, that snowball becomes so big to the point that you're like, I want to do this. It's got to roll. I can't not roll. I can't not flow. I can't not work out. I can't not, because I know the endorphin high that I get that then trickles into my relationships, into my passion projects, into my kids. It's just, I think it's so important. There's so much to it.
It is. You're doing 50 burpees a day for 30 days.
Yeah, girl.
In my head, I heard 50 burpees in the span of 30 days. I'm like, that's like less than 1 burpee a day, or less than 2 burpees a day.
No, 50 a day. And when I skip, I owe 100.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, I'm on like day 17, I think, and I can tell a difference. I've seen these transformation pictures, and I'm doing it with a big group in the area, VB Burpee Babes, hashtag wherever you are. Gary's, there's some men, some of the husbands are a part of it, but I feel so motivated because she's like, has a spreadsheet. She's like, where's so-and-so? She didn't show up today. And I'm like, oh, dang it. It's 10:30 at night. So last night I was after my core meeting, 10, 11 at night, and I was like, I have 100 burpees because I didn't do yesterday. And the sound of 150 burpees tomorrow sounds horrible. So I busted them out. I felt great about it.
Wow, way to go.
So challenge people to just go that extra step. They don't have to do that necessarily. But even like my mom said, she challenged herself to walk 4 miles a day for a week. Yeah. And she just goes out in nature. She's going to the beach, and like, that's working out. That's moving your body. That's getting your heart rate up. That's freeing your mind.
Right.
It's so good. There's so many elements of working out. You don't have to be hardcore like that.
Right. Well, and just to do something too, because having some movement, any movement, is good for you. What's interesting is even our bodies need that movement. Like, all of our internal systems need that movement to stay healthy, but our bones need that as well. If we're not moving around enough, we can get things like degenerative disc disease.
Totally.
I actually have issues with that because I have a job where I sit most of the time.
Sure.
So I have to move often. And
you can stand when we're in there next.
March around,
okay, drop and give me 10. We're trying to discuss right here.
50 burpees.
It wouldn't bother me. I understand. I couldn't imagine sitting all the time.
Yeah, I move around as much as I can, but I do work out, so that helps
it does,
too.
Totally.
And I see a chiropractor. That helps too. I love going to the chiropractor.
Yeah, I know. It's the best.
Though, awesome.
When I got a sleep number, I did not have to go to the chiropractor.
Really?
I am telling you, it has been transformational for my back problems.
Very cool.
I sleep on like a 5-degree incline. And they recommend it. They technically recommend it as a snoring setting, which my husband needed. And I was like, I'll try it. But it releases the pressure off of your lower back. It's
interesting.
Literally, I went to the chiropractor since I was in 7th grade.
Wow.
All the way until the last October when we got a sleep number.
That's crazy.
It's an investment for sure, but absolutely the best investment I've ever made. I'll make it back up in chiropractor bills. Yeah. Sorry, Dr. P. I love you.
Your sleep is so important too. I mean, sleep is incredibly important.
Yeah, it's a part of your libido too.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, absolutely. I recommend getting sleep. I listened to a podcast today, The Broken Brain, and they were talking about sleep. And I'm gonna get a book, 21 ways to better sleep, or maybe it's sleep better, cool. And then there's 21 techniques.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna grab that book and start implementing some of those skills to make sure I'm sleeping well. We need to do that.
And I think women have an extremely hard time. And I hear as you age, your melatonin levels go down, so it's even harder. But we go to sleep, and the comedian, there's a Christian comedian who talks about the guys who have the nothing box in their head, and so we go to bed, and my brain is moving a million miles a minute about my day, about what's to come of the next day, and I look over and Gary's snoring, and I'm like, how do you do that?
Brain scans show that too. So brain scans show that a man at rest, his brain actually has very little activity. Yeah. And women at rest, ours is firing up. It's ridiculous. So I don't know how you can call that at rest, but that is what they say. When we're relaxed and at rest, our brain just kind of goes nuts.
It's crazy.
It's hard to calm it down. That's true. I've been drinking magnesium.
Is that
going
helping?
To bed. It is. I've only been doing it for about a week, so I think I need a little bit longer period of time to know if it's helping, but it
Right.
also helps with joint pain, muscle soreness, all
Okay.
of that. And this morning, I didn't drink it last night, and this morning I had knee pain, so I'm like,
I think there's
maybe
something
I
to
should
it.
be doing
Gary
this.
always tells me to do magnesium, and I just don't. I'm like so weird about taking supplements, but I'm good at essential oils.
Well, do an Epsom salt bath soak instead. Like,
That's what I can do.
soak for 30 minutes. And I
that
just heard
sounds
actually,
lovely.
see,
I don't do that ever.
there you go. It's prescribed now. So you can soak for 30 minutes, and if you put a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, your body's supposed to uptake the magnesium better.
Nice.
But that's all Epsom salt is
Yeah,
magnesium.
sure,
So.
which I do love Epsom salt baths. But I just started taking progesterone
yeah.
and clary sage essential oils.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's only been, like you said, yours is a week. Mine's like 4 days. But
Yeah, it takes a little time.
I'm telling myself that it's doing wonders, and it's doing wonders.
I'm telling you, so just the placebo effect is all you need, right?
It's just mindset. I
Right.
spent the money. It's going to work. It's going to work.
There you go.
Oh, I love it. So I'm excited as we're talking, and I know we're wrapping up here because we have date night opportunities over here I need to get you to. I have this in front of us, and you're not going to see it if you're listening to the podcast, but I want to share about the retreat coming up and how there are women coming that are single, and so it's not speaking to them necessarily around the sex therapy concept, but the concept of like owning our individuality and femininity and that component of sex, like man versus woman.
Yeah.
I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to title it, but I think it's going to be something like, I don't know, sex talk, something fun. We'll have mocktails and hang out. Cookies from Crumble, who's a vegan, gluten-free cookie company locally that you can order from. Amazing.
Cool.
So it'll be a treat for the women in and of itself just to spend that girl time together. But I'd love to hear like kind of what your heart is around coming for us.
Yeah, well, it's really important for everybody to aim for sexual wholeness, and you don't actually have to be having sex to have sexual wholeness, because that looks different if you're single or if you're married.
Yeah.
But we're all sexually whole. God created us as whole entire beings, so He has completed that work, and He's still completing our work in a spiritual sense.
Yeah.
But He's created us as whole beings. When we have trauma and brokenness and sinfulness and other things that come into our lives, then we have to work a little to repair those things, and God does that work with us. We have to have some awareness of what needs to be done so we can seek that from Him. But that's more where the focus will be. I've kind of had some thoughts already, or where I might be taking this, but the idea really is that God is our all in all, and when we really have that close relationship with Him, these other things fall into place. If you want me to talk specifically about sex, I can totally do that too. We can do like a whole Q&A thing.
Yeah. I think there will be people who will be intrigued by that, because I think what you said, like sex therapy, people have all these thoughts of like, what does that mean? How does that work?
Especially as a Christian. People are like, do Christians do that?
Right.
Yeah, but we do.
Right. And like, do they have as much fun? It must be so boring. They can only do missionary. What does that mean? Like,
right, the Christian form.
Yes, right. And so like, I do think that there's like so much validity in that, and it gives women a space to be free, knowing that they don't have to carry their shame into the bedroom. That was a huge thing for me. Like, how do I remove myself from what I feel by myself when I'm with the person that I want to be with intimately? And so there's just so many levels to that, and like owning like who I am as a woman, who God sees me as a woman, and like my purpose as a woman. And then how can I like honor my husband by, our sexual intimacy. But people think honoring your husband is like you have to provide, but it doesn't. It's not like that. When you're honoring each other mutually, there's such a give take that there's this symbiotic experience that then makes you feel completely whole. So I'm just excited. I'm really excited about this segment specifically for the girls, because I don't think that you have access to openly talking about that ever.
Right. No, that's definitely true. A lot of women don't have the ability to ever have those talks. Or if they do, they're focused more on don't engage in sin instead of talking about things that would be helpful for relationships. And that's really too bad, because we know that teaching. I think that teaching is good. People still need it. Believe me, I know people still need that. Yes, you do. But even beyond that, there's just so much more that needs to be there. And I think if we focus on all the things we can't do or shouldn't do or must not do, then we miss out on all the freedom that we actually have. And that's an important piece that that ladies need.
Yeah, well, literally just that sentence alone is like the explanation of religion versus relationship with the Lord, right?
Exactly.
Because that is what religion is. That is what people see the Old Testament as. And we have this new covenant. We have this new opportunity to experience relationship with the Lord, just like we have the new opportunity to experience relationship in our marriages, if we can release ourselves from the you must not and you must do.
Right.
So I appreciate that. It's definitely been something that's been very eye-opening for me in my marriage, and I know for many others. So I'm thankful and grateful. And she's going on date night, so I'm not holding you up, but I know you have to get back on here to share more, because I just know the wealth of knowledge that you bring to the table every single time, and I'm excited. So come out to the retreat on October 6th, but before then, jump on Better Than the Honeymoon, jump on BeFullyWell.com to see all of the resources that she provides you, and call her up if you need a sex therapist or a marriage counselor or any of the above. She does way more than that.
Better Than the Honeymoon is a Facebook group, not a website.
Yes, correct. So jump on Facebook in order to get access to that. It is. Do you have to request access to that one specifically?
You do. You request access. I'll grant that, though. Cool. I just have to. I look at the pages first to make sure that. To make sure that it seems like it'd be a good fit, because I do talk about some pretty difficult subject matter, so I try to protect my group that's in there and make sure there's not people coming in that I know are going to muddy the waters, so to speak. That
makes very much good sense. Yeah, I don't know if I want my siblings in there or anything. That might be weird. I don't know if you can prevent that.
For any of
I hadn't thought of that.
I was thinking more, like for instance, I had someone come in that then was trying to promote what Christians call pornography. I'm saying that in quotes and saying that it can be okay. That person was taken out of the group, but I try to really watch for that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing any kinds of, making sure that you reach some standard, to be able to come in. It's really just to make sure that the group is protected.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here. I'm so excited for our continued growth in our relationship and friendship, and I value you.
Oh, thank you. I value you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. See you later.
I'm Tamara Andress. I'm your Fit and Faith host, and I am so excited to just be here to share with you other movers, dreamers, shakers, entrepreneurs, pastors, whatever. If you've got a head and you've got a heart, I'm so excited to explore who that is, whose you are, and discover your wholeness, your health, your wealth, and your joy. I love to exude happiness. I want people to know that this is not, this came with trial. You guys, this came with a lot of effort. This came with a lot of lows and so many highs. And I want us to experience those together. This is a real community of dreamers, and I'm excited to help catapult your calling, your kingdom experience, the purpose of your imprint on the world, wherever, however that is. So come along for the ride. I am excited to chat with you. Like, comment, review, send me a DM, send me an email. It's me responding, even though I have an incredible team. And so I'm just excited to get to know you. Let's connect, let's create community, and let's walk in our calling.